Everybody, and welcome back. And last week's hour we saw the seventh instance where Moses took 40 days and 40 nights in the Sinai mountain along with God. In the meantime, we saw that the Israelites had turned against God and forced Aaron to make a golden calf, which they proclaimed this as their God and tested God once again with idol worship by saying, as they lost the hope of Moses coming, as it's been 40 days and 40 nights. And now we can see what happens after this from Exodus 32nd chapter. And we read the 4th and 6th verse, which says, "He took what they had handed him and made it into an idol in the cast in the shape of a calf, fashioning it with a tool. Then they said, 'These are your gods, Israel, who brought you out of Egypt.' When Aaron saw this, he built an altar in front of the calf and announced, 'Tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord.' So the next day the people rose early and sacrificed burnt offerings and presented fellowship offerings. Afterwards they sat down to eat and drank and got up to indulge in revelry." So we see here how they get deceived by bringing in the idol worship and completely gone to the opposite way of God. They do everything through the fleshly mindset and not realize the value of God's grace, and nothing they did was wholeheartedly. So it shows where their desire was all about, where their desire that to what they showed towards God was just about the eating, drinking, and celebrities and having parties. They then say at the end, though, that they want to indulge in revelry, which means in the dictionary a lively and noisy festivities, especially when they involve drinking a large amount of alcohol. So it's when large festivities take place, where huge parties take place, and most of the time there's large amounts of alcohol in this. So here in the 7th instance, they go to the next level of sin and turn against God by doing this revelry at the same time to celebrate the golden calf that Aaron had created due to them forcing him to make it here. And then we see step by step by now how they're going in the wrong way. The first mistake they did was in the instance of the first instance where they tested God in the Red Sea, where they showed mainly fear against what the Egyptians could do to them. Then in the second one, we saw in the Mara place for water, where they complained about the situation and wanting water. And in the third one, we saw about how they in one place of desert of sin for food. They argued basically in one of the deserts, which was the desert of sin. They argued for the food against Moses. And in the 5th instance, we saw when God provided manna and meat, but they showed disobedience in the ways of not following the rules about how they should eat it at the specific time and date. Then in the 6th time, when they camped in Rephidim again for water and tried to stone Moses, as they had not got enough water once again. Then in the 7th instance, they started to worship idolatry and they touched the core of God's justice characteristic by doing this. Since they've done these seven huge mistakes from God, from the Red Sea to the 7th incident of the idol worship, we see each time and time they're not understanding their mistake they've done, despite understanding after a period of time despite being given the reward, I should say, actually, after God provides them with what they need, they still, due to the situation, their mindset turns into that fleshly mindset and acts to do this sin against God and these incidents to an extent of idolatry worship. And we see that they even start to grumble for water in one place. And then we saw in one of the city in the Sea of Mara, in one of the places. Then we see the next one where they go to the desert of sin, where they complained about food. And then we also saw the 5th one where they complained and did not follow about the rules of the manna and meat and how they should eat it. Then again in the 6th one, once again, in the Rephidim camp, they wanted water, so they tried to stone Moses. And then the 7th incident, we saw about how the idolatry worship they had done. So that is all for today. Our understanding about what they did in this revelry. We understand now that the Israelites had, after Moses not coming for 40 days and 40 nights, they had lost the hope that he was ever going to come. They forced Aaron to make the golden calf, and they started to worship this. And then it was put into place that they will have a huge party and ceremony and sacrifice offerings and a revelry to celebrate this occasion. And this revelry, understood now, is basically where large festivities take place, where there's large amounts of alcohol. So this made it even huge and bigger sin for what the mistakes of doing, as even they're drinking alcohol at the same time. Despite what God has provided them all this time, they do not understand, and their fleshly minds always goes to the negative and the bad side. And they've now done this 7 times now. So now we'll see what happens in the next week's video. See you then. Bye.